Some communities have been able to save fragments of their history, but here, more than anywhere else in Oklahoma, there's the opportunity to save a whole era. Guthrie.
And here's where they lit the chunk, right here. And Guthrie, whether many people realize it or not, Guthrie was the cradle for Oklahoma. Here is where it began. Here comes a man with a wagon and his family with kids and his wife and a plow, and trails are plowed under. Animal trails and cattle trails are plowed under by a strange combination of farmers and cattlemen, of northerners and southerners, of all people who had been fighting each other in the Civil War.
My father had been one of the youngest of the soldiers in the Northern Army when the war between the North and the South. And he always kept that straight soldier walk and wore the dark clothes and a big hat. And Mother was a very capable housewife, mother, and, well, just all around a farm woman. I know that when she come here, she brought me a tiny baby. And they moved in a sod house. Did you tell that? Anyway, they lived for a while. They lived in the wagon and cooked on a campfire until they got the sod house where it was fit to be moved into.
Campfires and smoke wafting up through the evening air, people searching for people. You know, they looked for friends that they got lost. And there were guys coming in here by sundown after the run. Guys had come in with everything: groceries, meat, lumber, anything you need. Lawyers were here, doctors were here, dentists. So it to me is a singular thing that this cradle is such a democratic thing, with all nationalities participating and each one having a pretty equal chance. And the people did rule. The people did rule.
Guthrie was recently designated as a National Historic District. Now, in the downtown area, there are approximately 75 buildings that are important. As an architect, I'm fascinated by the progression that has occurred here in the building of Guthrie. It begins with tents, progresses to wood frame buildings, and then to masonry buildings, all within a very short time period. Stylistically, all of these buildings are 2 and 3 stories. They were all speculative buildings. Generally, they all have very elaborate decorative cornices. They were all built out of local Oklahoma materials. The sandstone is a beautiful, dull red. It was quarried just right out of town. And all of the brick was made locally out of Oklahoma red clay. Joseph Fukar was the man who was responsible for most of these really important buildings in Guthrie. Fukar is important to us not only because he was the first architect in Oklahoma, but he was an extraordinarily talented and gifted designer. Fukar's work has the mark of genius all over it. He had such a fundamental understanding of design, and his work embodies so many different ideas: form, line, color, contrast, variation in scale. Gray Brothers building, the Co-op, all of these buildings are truly outstanding and remarkable buildings. There were other architects who worked in Guthrie also. For example, J.H. Bennett designed the Carnegie Library in a Renaissance revival style.
This Carnegie Library was built about 1901, along in there, 1901, 1902. And quite naturally, this was, because it was being built in what was the capital of Oklahoma, and what everyone assumed would always be the capital of Oklahoma, it took on the look of a very regal, Capitol-style building. a terrible controversy and hatred developed between Frank Greer, a Republican newspaper publisher in Guthrie, and Governor Haskell. Haskell called for an election for relocation of the capital, and Oklahoma City won. Guthrie, having lost the capital, fell into a kind of a lethargy, a long sleep, and grass really did grow on the sidewalks and the streets in Guthrie.
So we are asking right now to call us at 282-5005 or 282-1490, giving your opinion on what to do with the older buildings in Guthrie, and there are many of them. Some of them have been lost, torn down, demolished, but a lot of them still remain, and apparently you feel that there are enough remaining that something could be done with them.
Yes, definitely. Guthrie, I think, has probably got more good architecture per square inch than any community in Oklahoma.
He made the comment while he was here that he'd never seen a town that had the old buildings the way we have.
And there we had a call. We have another one coming in, I believe, at this time. We'll see who we have. Good morning. You're on sounding board.
Don't you think the owner